Hey everybody, welcome to the Office 365 Pulse. We have got Tom, Adam, and myself today. We're from a few different locations, but we thought we'd still get together and bring you guys the updates this week. A little strange, we have a 0, a big fat goose egg in the rolling out category. So we see that happen every once in a while. Microsoft is, doing something in the environment. So they've paused on the rollout stages. So we have a couple of really cool things in development. Let's be honest, a couple of very nerdy, very techy things in the development and launch stages, some different things there. We have one thing in the canceled, a few in development, and a few in launch, but nothing in rolling out. So I think this episode's going to be pretty quick, but it should be enough to get you an update of kind of what's going on. And since, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think I have stole Tom's thunder. I know that one of the first ones is going to be something he's interested in. So, Tom, I'm going to give you the floor and let you go, man.
Okay, I'm going to cover all the Intune items. Wrong. Yeah, Adam's going to be talking a lot on this webcast because there is a lot of the nerdy stuff that he gets into. Not so much for Jen and I. But anyway, one of the first things in development at the top of the list is something that I think has the potential, the potential to be very beneficial, but you might want to be real careful with it. And that is Microsoft Teams channel cross posting. This enables you to compose one message and send it out to multiple channels in one step, which is really cool. They can be part of the same team. They can be different teams, which is really nice. Any edit that you make to that particular post will actually populate to all the channels too, which again, really good stuff. And I can see where if you have a number of channels that people are part of that are kind of semi-related and you want to send out a message to everybody, like, there's Cake in the Break Room, that's a really good way to reach everybody really quickly. The downside of it is I could see somebody going, oh, my kitten or my cat just had kittens last night. Does anybody want them? And they spam it across multiple team sites and multiple channels.
That's an HR problem, though, Tom, not a tech
That is true.
problem.
Here's the rope, hang yourself. But this is something I'm really looking forward to. I think it's going to be very beneficial to save you having to go out to multiple channels, multiple teams to get a message out, or people being missed with information just because you didn't know about it, or you just couldn't be bothered to hit, 8 different teams and 40 different channels. So good stuff. Looking forward to that coming out when it does.
Yeah. I'll do one. There's one with enhanced delegation. And so that's going to be one that's in development in Teams. And so that's where someone may be able to answer calls for me or delegate calls for me or different things like that. Well, now I can set it up so my delegator can delegate. So that's going to be good when you're in like a round robin thing. So maybe, I want to take the first shift and I want to do calls that are coming into this number and then I want to pass it to someone else and then, different things like that. So you're going to be able to do some more of those enhanced delegation things. And so that's really a great thing when you've got the hot potato and you want to be able to pass it around. So I'm excited to see where that's going, as well as some enhanced things with emergency calling. And so that's going to start in the US first, but that's going to be where you can do public safety calls from within inside Teams, and it's going to get the right locations and different things there, so that if you do have to call, God forbid, 911 or something like that from Teams, it's going to route correctly and do everything that it needs to do. So some of those features are some of the things that they have in development there, which again, I think are things that we've seen in Skype in the past, and now we're going to be able to see them coming to Teams. So excited to see all of that in development. Teams is our in development blossoming thing right now. So we're seeing all of these things come. So.
I think it's important to point out overall is that I know that a number of the people in my organization have been somewhat terrified over the fact that Teams is going to replace Skype, and they're like, but Teams doesn't do this and this and this. Microsoft is really putting a focus lately on adding features to Teams that will bring it up to feature parity with Skype. So when I get that feedback from people, I basically tell them, just to give you a little bit of comfort, I can't guarantee it will be exact feature parity when we do it later in 2020, but I think that you're going to see that it's going to be a lot closer than it was before. And Microsoft is very aware of the fact that they have to be doing this.
Well, if you think about it, when you look at the docs that Microsoft has, there's a timeline that they have to tell you a major product is going away. They're not going to wait until all of the features are there and then start the 2-year clock to say the product is going away. So you have to kind of balance those pieces out. Microsoft is well aware that they cannot make a product go away until the parity is there, but they also cannot wait to start the clock until all of the features are there. So it's a balancing act. And I think if you can kind of explain that to the users too, I think they'll start to see and maybe feel a little less worried about it.
Yeah.
And they've made good progress.
Yes, they have.
How about you, Adam? Tell us about this quarantine administrative role. I thought this was fun. I want to be like, I am the quarantiner.
There's really several kind of administrative nerdy things, as Tom kind of alluded to. We can go ahead and start with what Jen was talking about. Basically, they're coming out with a new quarantine administrator role for organizations who use the quarantine heavily. Previously, you basically needed to either be an Exchange admin or a global admin to be able to go in and manage stuff. They're basically just creating a new RBAC role, which you've heard us talk before. All of us are big fans of role-based access controls. So they're creating a new role to basically give someone the ability to just manage the quarantine, which is cool. If your company uses it, you know that that's something that happens fairly often. I imagine you're giving it to a senior tech on your help desk staff or something like that, so they have the ability to go in, which is cool. Really, besides that, the administration stuff kind of falls into 2 different categories. New stuff coming out for Intune, and actually a pretty cool new thing coming out for a compliance center for Microsoft 365. So to kind of address some of the Intune stuff quickly, there's a couple things that's going on that is definitely new, but kind of interestingly, most of these stuff were added to the roadmap several months ago. They've just been modified in the last week or so, but things like derived credentials, which basically means if you work for the government and you have something like a common access card or a personal identity verification card, that type of stuff is going to start working with Intune if you're using mobile devices. So again, for those companies that have that extra layer of security, even past 2-factor, we're really doing something like a Yubico key or something like that. That's going to start to come into play. And then additionally for Intune, you're starting to see stuff like SMIME encryption being allowed for Outlook, Outlook for Android or Outlook for iOS devices. That's going to give you stuff like email authenticity signing, so basically email signature signing, but like saying, hey, I'm vowing this is me, as well as actual encryption and data protection, which is cool stuff to see going on. They announced kind of to the side, and this is a newer one, but kind of cool. Microsoft Edge released test builds recently. They call them insider channels. Basically, they're just bringing Intune up to the ability to support the test builds, which is just nice to see if you're an organization that uses Edge. And then finally, as I kind of mentioned, which I think is pretty cool, they're actually launching a Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. This is something that is new. It was literally added on the 25th, hadn't been on the roadmap before. For the longest time, there's been an Office 365 Security and Compliance Center. So basically, this is their next iteration, the same way that you saw Microsoft 365 kind of take over as a new admin center. This also means it's going to have Windows things and stuff like that in there. I could tell you guys, I use the Compliance Center a decent amount. We have customers that have to meet certain strict compliance standards, and the Compliance Center is absolutely amazing. It breaks down specifically what you need to be doing, what controls you need to be able to put in place. So this is their next iteration of it, the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. And to the side of that, they're also giving you tools to be able to lift and shift what you've already done in the Security and Compliance Center and move it over to the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. So this is just released for standard multi-tenant clients. So GCC, DoD, GCC High. You guys are gonna have to wait. It's still not out there yet. But love to see this coming out there. Love to see what's going on. And it's always interesting. Jen and I have laughed about this. Probably the customers that want to do some of the compliance stuff the most are like the GCC, the GCC High. But it's just in standard. But it's still a wonderful tool. I can still use stuff in my lab and in some of the test environments that we get as a partner to go in and look at what some of the controls are and still use that to assist in the support that we're doing for some of our government clients. So really cool to see new development going on there. Once I read this, I'm actually excited to go and see what is actually different, what type of stuff it has in there, because that is a tool that I've leaned on heavily, and I think it's really, really cool.
Awesome. Well, cool. That kind of goes through the more techie things that are coming out. I think the last one there is we're getting hold music in Teams.
Yay!
So this would be the part in the podcast where, yeah, I'd sing, but we've got Tom doing it. So there we go. So then in our rolling out category, again, we have nothing. Honestly, guys, I would not be surprised if we go through a week or two of nothing. Typically, from my experiences, when rolling out clears out, there's a period of peace. There's a period of nothing's rolling out, but that's because they're doing something. That's because they're either rolling out security patches on the back end. That's because they need the environment to be stable for some reason. That's because it could be a gabillion different reasons that we don't need to know about because they're managing the cloud and they know what they're doing, but we aren't seeing anything in the rolling out category. We could see things there next week, or we could go a couple of, usually somewhere between 1 to 3 weeks of nothing in that category. So we'll just keep watching it. But again, nothing really to worry about. We're getting into that conference season peak, so we're going to see these ebbs and flows, and then we're going to get to like November, and rolling out is probably going to be like 72 pages long. So just wait for it. All right. So then when we moved on to launched, I'm gonna take one. I'm gonna go first, and that's gonna be the Power Apps web part. So the SharePoint Power Apps web part. That one has been, I think, in preview, in beta, in whatever you want to call it, first release, I think, since I was a wee child. And now it has made it into the wild. So I'm excited to see that one go. So that one is there on the SharePoint Modern Pages. The SharePoint Power Apps web part is launched and available. So there we go. Sorry, Tom, if I took yours, but
I'm just going to go off in the corner and sulk for the rest of this meeting.
All right. Well, then, Adam, I'll toss it to you, and Tom can look for another one.
So this is actually something that's kind of, it's at first glance, it's not that great, but I can tell you this is something, again, that I work with a ton of my partners on. They're actually updating the admin center to have better support updates, full page ticket history view, and callback scheduling.
Callback scheduling is amazing.
Yeah, no, I can tell you guys, I work with Office 365 support a lot, and it, at times, is not the best. and I cannot tell you how often I've had a ticket that I've put in with a partner that we go through, we give all the details we think we need, we schedule a call, and that time comes and just nothing happens. For whatever reason, I can't tell you why, all the time, they will get the time zone wrong when calling us back and stuff. It's not the best experience. So to actually have them see Microsoft going through, they even, if you read the details, like the description they give, they even specifically point out, look, we're listening to your feedback. We realize this wasn't the best experience. Here's some of the steps we're taking to try to make it better, to try to make it, easier for you guys to be able to go through and support. As someone who actually depends on this, working with my clients all the time, this is awesome. Hopefully, it actually does get a little bit better. As Jen said, just have callback scheduling in there is going to be a huge win. So hopefully, it makes the support experience when you have to, because we all have those times that you think you know what's going on, but it's just well, this looks weird. I think this is a bug, but there's really nothing I can do about it. Well, you're dependent on support, so hopefully this just makes the experience a little bit better.
Or you have the times where you need to pull together different engineering resources. You have to get the security guy, the authentication guy. You have to get all these different guys and pull them together. So if you can, figure out who's going to be home from soccer practice and who's done with dinner and who's got all of these things, it would just be easier to kind of schedule that. So anything they can do to reduce some of those frustrations will just make it easier. Because the reality is we live in the cloud world now. So there are some things that are easy fixes that we can no longer do. And regardless, we may know exactly what we need them to do, but we still have to call and ask. We still have to go to them. We still have to go. And so that adds a layer of frustration to it anyway in this new world. So getting some of those extra features just makes it a better experience altogether. All right, Tom, there's 2 for Teams that I know you'd like. Why don't you take us through
those? One of them is one that I actually did a 1-minute Office Magic tip on the other day, and that is the Microsoft Teams per team and cross-team analytics. A lot of times you create a new team and then you're kind of like, well, is anybody using it? Is anybody out there? Hello, is this thing on? Tap, tap, tap. This now gives you the ability to go through and say, okay, how many people are on there? How many messages are being sent? Things like that. And I think that's really critical for adoption, to be able to say, am I really getting the effect of what I was hoping for in this? So I'm really happy to see that. Now, the other teams, when were you talking about the audio calling for the Chrome browser?
Well, yeah.
Okay, we're going to have audio calling for the Chrome browser. Rock on. I'm done now.
Okay, well, at least you covered it.
It was nice. I didn't have to go in the corner and sulk again, so I'm okay with that.
All right, and I'll take canceled. There's just one of them. I like to be the bearer of bad news. This one, they had on their usage reports for Office extensibility add-ins. So they were going to give us usage reports on the dashboard to let us know how people were using our add-ins. They've canceled it. They didn't put in the notes they were replacing it with another feature ID. My guess is that there was probably some type of complex issue that they ran into, or that it became something too technical heavy to do, too debt heavy, was too resource heavy to do, or that it was too complex, or they found another way to do it and they rolled it into another ID. But either way, right now it is off the table with no further notice. But that one doesn't bother me too much. That one was more of a, oh, that'd be cool to have, but it wasn't one that I was like, my life is like, I need this to make my life better. It was kind of like, oh, that would have been a nice delighter, but not a requirement. So I'm not as sad that that one's off my list, but that is officially off the list now. So that is it. So once
that was
again,
on the roadmap for 2 years. So
Really? Wow.
they tried for a long time. They gave it the whole college try.
It was me, not you.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, that's our show for today. We're going to get this posted to YouTube, and then in the comments, I will put a link to a PDF of the summary, and then I'll get it posted to LinkedIn as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week with hopefully some more updates. And if not, just our banter and humor, because they're not rolling anything out, but we shall see. All right, guys. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye.